Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to the conversation. How are y'all doing tonight? I am so excited, as we continue on our journey talking about males and mental health, continuing learning what it is, the challenges, the struggles, the different things that men face that is dealing with their mental health. We're talking about some things that are kind of, things that we really don't talk about but to bring that awareness to our community. Hello, conversation community. Where are y'all this evening? Hello, hello, hello. Let me know where are you listening from. So tag your location. I definitely want to shout out wherever you're listening from. But again, welcome to the conversation. If this is your first time watching the conversation, you may also be a part of the conversation community by three ways. And yes, that's what I said. By three ways. It does sound like church, but hey, you can join the community. You can like it, share us, hey, and make a comment. Because one thing about it, we like to have a conversation. This is never a dialogue or a monologue only with my guests, but it is also a conversation with the conversation community. So hello, TC community. Okay. We got Fort Mitchell in the house. Hello, 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 Sharon. How are you doing? How are you doing? So, as y'all know, so this month we've been talking about males and mental health. And so I definitely want to give you some different signs and symptoms that are just dealing with mental health so that you can know that when you see these different signs in your loved ones, in your colleagues, in your friends and family members, that you definitely know that, hey, something is just not right, and we definitely want to take away, and I do say again, we want to take away that title of calling someone crazy or, oh, that's just crazy Uncle Joe over there. No, Uncle Joe just might need some help. And so what we need to do is get Uncle Joe that proper help that he needs. So some of the things that you can look for that you might see is we have anger outbursts, being irritated and annoyed very quickly and very easily. Also, isolating themselves. If you know a person who might be very outgoing and fun-loving and talkative, and then all of a sudden they just withdraw themselves from all different functions, family activities, sometimes even at work, where normally they might come by and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're like, where is that person? When you see them doing that, something is wrong. I definitely encourage you to have a conversation. And if you feel like, hey, you're not the best person suited for the conversation, I definitely understand, because everyone, they might feel like, hey, that's just not their place. Or it might be something that's very sensitive, even for you, because it could be something that you're dealing with or getting over with. So, but definitely give them information or go to a professional or someone that can support them in the time that they need. And all of our support is not going to look the same, because some of us can't afford to have a therapist, a counselor, or someone. But there are definitely resources. There are definitely support systems that are out there. Your mother, your parents, a cousin, an uncle, a spouse. Go to someone that is your support, and also let it be a space where it's non-judgmental. And I definitely say that again, and I stress a non-judgmental space, because a lot of times we want to talk about what we're feeling or what we're thinking, but then we feel like, well, wait, I don't want to say nothing because they might judge me, or I'm supposed to be the high achiever, or I'm supposed to be that strong, independent person, and I'm falling down. I can't take it anymore. I just can't do this. Hey, it's okay. When they come to you, no judgment. Just like who is that? Planet Fitness. They got it everywhere. No judgment zone. I went sometime, but don't judge me, y'all. It's my mama's membership. Hey, mama, I see you on the line, girl. So, but without any further ado, yes, again, y'all know I like to throw some jokes out there, even though I know we're dealing with a very serious topic. And I do stress again for anyone that's listening, this is a very serious topic. We might joke, we might kiki, but definitely we want you to know that you can get the help that you need. All right. So I would like for my guests to introduce themselves. I'm gonna go in the order in which I see them, so I don't know how they might see themselves, but definitely in order which I see them. I know TC community, you're like, whoa, we got a lot of guests this evening. Yes, we do. Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Yes. So we're gonna start with Damon. Damon, give us a little bit about yourself and where you are from.
Okay, well, hello everyone, and I'm so glad to be here with you, Andrea, and the fellow guests on the platform tonight. We surely appreciate the opportunity. Originally, I'm from New Orleans, but I'm now in Monroe, and I've been here since '93. So we're talking about 28 years. I'm officially Monrovian now, and married with 4 sons. My oldest is 22, then I have an 18-year-old, 17-year-old. My youngest is 14. So love fatherhood, being a dad, love being a husband. But that's kind of my personal side. And just on a professional side, I'm a consultant, parent educator, motivational speaker, and author. And so here I work locally with the nonprofit organization serving as a parent educator and case manager. And then I do consultant work with a firm out of Kentucky, and we're doing the work in Indiana there with a regional prevention system. But a little
Awesome.
bit about me, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So now we want to go with Moses. Hello, Mr. Moses.
Greetings, everyone. Andrea, thank you so kindly for the invitation. Gents, thank you all for being here as well. I'm Moses Foxx III. It is always imperative that I put that third on there, as you know, I literally just jumped on a plane yesterday and flew back from Mississippi, where I was born and raised, where Moses Foxx Jr. is still there, and have actually sitting over in front of me. You all can't see him. Moses Foxx IV sitting there. So married 16 years, have 2 kids, a son who is 10, getting ready to turn 11. He's excited, asking for Fortnite stuff. And my daughter, who is 12 and wants everyone out of her way and for her to make every decision there is to make, like telling me how to set up for tonight. So excited. My wife, Tiffany, is somewhere around the house. And so, like I said, I'm from Mississippi. I work in higher education over at Central Piedmont Community College. If anyone is looking to further their career, I have to throw that spill in there. We are open to providing career options for young and seasoned people. So come on down and give me a call. Look me up. My name is right there. I've been here in Charlotte for 20 years. 20 years.
Mm.
Wow. Been here in Charlotte for 20 years. I've literally worked in television, transitioned from television and doing voiceovers over there. So you're like, he looks like a small guy, but he has a big voice. It's real. It's what I do. It's what I do. So enjoy doing voiceovers, but I needed to give more, give back. So I ventured into education, worked in K-12 education as well as nonprofits doing educational work for about 14 years or 13 years combined. And then I transitioned into higher education, where I now oversee the Harris campus for Central Piedmont Community College. It's a lot of work. I've been giving into my community since hitting ground here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and when I will continue to do so in a multitude of capacities. Mentoring is something that is extremely important. We talk about organizational mentoring, but I think individual and small group mentoring is as important as your organizational mentoring. And it really, we're talking about mental health here, but that's a great part of it. And so I'll kind of pause there. I can get into, I think I covered family, I covered education, I covered, I'll pitch back because I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to talk about other things.
Awesome, 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 awesome. So, and we have J Neal. We would like to go by J Neal.
Yeah, we can go by J Neal, but everybody know we'll get to that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, J Neal, would you please introduce yourself to the TC community?
All right, everyone, and thank you, Andrea, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jeremy Neal. I'm originally from Monroe, Louisiana, a Carroll High School graduate. Just to let y'all know, we're on the opposite side of those Wiseman Wildcats. Just to let you know. So, all right. I am currently in San Antonio, Texas. I have been here 11 years. I am married. My wife is of South African descent. She is expecting. We probably are looking at maybe 3, 4 more weeks, and I'll have a baby girl here. It'll be my firstborn. Um, During my 13-year career in telecommunications, I have done troubleshooting from the DSL side to doing Uverse tech support to being a part of a social media team, and then also doing networking for hospitality locations such as Hilton, Hampton, Starbucks, you name it, we did it. I recently transitioned into a role this year into manager of credit and collections, which I'm very proud of, and it was giving me my first experience actually managing representatives. So a great experience for me. Otherwise, outside of that, I love to go bowling. I love to do my community service works. That's where me and Moses will have issues. As I'm a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, I had noticed that emphasis on the. So that's a little bit about me. Very simple, very outgoing guy, but I hope to bring a lot to this conversation today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I just want to say thank you so much to my guests. It is such a pleasure to have you all on the platform and have you all on the conversation and where we are about to get it started. Definitely, we're about to get it started. We're about to go ahead and dive right on in. Are y'all ready? I see y'all. All right, awesome. So I want to start with Damon. So tell me a little bit. So we're talking about males and mental health, and that is what we're particularly talking about. What experiences or what challenges have you had with yourself, or if someone that you might know that have struggled or challenged with mental health, with either depression, anxiety, PTSD, things like that?
Well, personally, I know for a season I had a spell with depression. I'm typically an upbeat, energetic type of person. I'm a motivational speaker, of course, by trade. So that means being able to motivate yourself when no one else can.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll never forget years ago, as it was actually around Katrina, when I had some guests for a long time with me, staying with me. And I went through a really rough patch, a really low place and a really dark place as far as dealing with depression. And I couldn't put my finger on where it was coming from. What was the source? Because that wasn't typically something I struggled with. And then God just kind of revealed to me, it was kind of the person who was here with me. And then it was another person who, and both of them really struggled heavily with depression. And I was basically getting it from both sides. And it really gives an attest to, or it's an attest to how sometimes who you hang around, the vibe, sometimes you could pick it up. So if a person struggles with discouragement, depression, or anything like that, that can rub off on you and it can influence you. And so I think that was kind of one of the struggles I've had personally. But then professionally, I deal with people who struggle with either addictions or mental health problems. So I see it a lot. And one thing I know as far as men, society kind of teaches us to repress and suppress our feelings. And that makes the situation even worse. Because as you suppress, especially depression, it turns into anger, it turns into all kinds of things. And especially for men, of course, statistics show that it oftentimes leads to, the suicidal tendencies. But, I think it's very critical that we help to remove the stigma for men, especially African-American men, of being, having that struggle with depression, seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist, and getting that mental help, especially if we're brought up in faith. Sometimes we believe, okay, I just pray and God is going to work it out. God is going to work it out, but he has given us all manner of resources. And we have to use our faith accompanied with works so that we can have that strong mental health and we can have, live healthy as far as our mental health is concerned. But that's one thing, those are my experiences kind of with the mental health. And as I kind of teach the men that I deal with and with as a parent educator, is expressing yourself, being expressive, finding your outlet, get to the gym. If you have to pray, I teach people the acronym PAM, praying, getting affirmations, and then meditating. Those are three powerful concepts. If you can pray, you can get some affirmations to speak over yourself. I'm blessed, I'm healed, I'm wealthy, I'm successful, I'm great. And then if you meditating and speaking inwardly, speaking into your spirit, just whatever you're pondering, but getting some good positive things in you, and that will make a world of a difference. Those things will really help. But yes.
Awesome, awesome. And I want to put this out there also for the TC community. If you have any questions, please ask your questions. I will be sure to ask the guests your questions so we can answer these questions. Like I told you before, this is a conversation that we are having. We are definitely bringing the awareness about mental health in the male community because we know this is something that men typically don't talk about. Like Damon said, there are troubles with expressing themselves because they don't want to seem, and I'm just saying, guys, I'm not a male myself, but definitely dealing with my professional area that I work in, I see that they don't want to express themselves because they don't want to come off as vulnerable or weak, or and then too, they never were allowed the space to express themselves. So, Jeremy, I see that you're off mute. So, what is your thoughts about males not being able to have that space to express themselves?
Well, it starts as a adolescent actually,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of an unfortunate thing, but it's just true. You may have that male dominant father figure, or you may have that mother figure that's just eh, like, yes, this is what it's going to be. This is how it's going to be at all times. And one of the examples that I would like to bring up is, let's just talk about what your child would like to do growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with the males, and sometimes even females, they like to say, okay, you're going to go play football, you're going to go play basketball, you're going to do this. Well, what you're doing is you're setting your child back at that point. You're basically telling them in so many words, you're going to live my dream and I'm going to live it through you.
Mm-hmm.
How is that effective to that child at that point? You're basically telling them, this is what you're going to do and this is what you're going to be. And then once you get there, you're going to take care of me. Where are you getting this from?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the child must grow up. Now, them growing up the correct way is by giving the child options. Sometimes I understand that you have to be that domineering parent to your child and have that control. But sometimes you got to also realize you got to also let go a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and let them be free. Let them be free minded. Let them express themselves a little bit, because what happens as they go down the road in life, they start to do the things called bottling up, and they bottled up because you became so dominant and didn't allow them to have a space to speak or voice their opinions. Or let's just say if they wanted to do speaking engagements, they would probably just freeze. They would just stand there and just be like, am I really supposed to speak here? Am I really supposed to say
Mm-hmm.
anything? Um, and you talked about vulnerability. I want to talk about that a little bit. I
Okay.
want to be vulnerable for a second. So I come from that type of background. My first 15 years as an adolescent, I jumped from household to household. When they say that it takes a village to raise a child, it's true. I went from grandma's house to mom's house to friends of families to then going back to staying with my stepmother. And then it became more chaos as I turned 15 because leaving Mississippi, as I stayed in Moss Point, Mississippi for a while, I moved back to Monroe. Moving back to Monroe, I stayed back with stepmother until mother got mad and said, hey, I'm going to take you over here. Go live with your uncle for a little bit. Then go switch off and go live with your grandma for a little bit. So jumping from household to household, not understanding what structure is, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to affect you in your older life, because then at the age of 35, I went through a year full of just counseling. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to basically clear out everything that went on with me as a youth at the age of 35. I didn't realize that all of these things were affecting my adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're seeing it and when you're going through it, you're like, wow, now I see, okay, I could have done this, or I could have changed this better, or some of your past relationships could have been far better if you would have sought help.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? You didn't realize that mentally you needed help. And sometimes it's okay to sit back and say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things that I need to fix here. And if you don't say those things, then you're just basically just in denial at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be in
Mm-hmm.
denial. There's no point, reason, rhyme or reason, because that's what puts you in that mindset of, as you spoke at the beginning of the call, potential thoughts of suicide, potential bad thoughts of doing things that you shouldn't, and you know that are not the right things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always turn around your life. If you had a rough childhood, don't blame, go and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Fix your problem. There's no reason to go back and say, well, if this person would have done this or if this person done that. By the time you are old enough to speak for yourself, you can go and correct the issues that you need to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And then even at jobs, they offer programs in which, my job offered 3 free sessions. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
this until I actually started to research detail. They offer 3 free
Yes.
sessions of it. And then after that, you may have to pay some type of co-fee. But
Mm-hmm.
um, the things that helped me get through it were the first time when I didn't succeed at counseling, I kept trying. Um, so the first thing that I would say is that make sure that you get the right person that you're
Mhm.
speaking with. They get that
That's true.
non-disclosure agreement. It may not be a family member. A family
Mm-hmm.
member may not be the best person because sometimes that bias and what they may tell you is not really the thing that you need to hear at that point in time. You need somebody with an
Mm-hmm.
unbiased opinion that can advise you the right thing. The
Mm-hmm.
next thing is that once you've gone along that journey, find the things that make you comfortable. Things that make me comfortable: R&B music, oil diffusers, candles. I don't mind telling anybody about any of those things because guess what? I can go in my bathroom and just sit back in the tub and just relax with some soft music and some candles, and I'm not bothered. I
Yeah.
wouldn't care what anybody thought about me. The
Mm-hmm.
next thing that I'll tell anybody: pedis and manicures. I'm all for it. But
All right now.
what people will tell you is that, oh, as a man, that's not manly.
Man, come on.
That's
Are
true.
are
Come on.
are you serious?
Come
Well,
on.
let me just say this while I'm throwing my hooks. I'm gonna go and get a mani and pedi, and guess what? You could say this, that, or the other, but guess what? You're the one that's being judgmental at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay living in the skin that I'm in while you
Mm-hmm.
may be sitting uncomfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at those things and you have to find the things that make you happy as an
Yeah.
individual. And
Yeah.
if you don't find those things, don't look at anyone else. You got to again go back and point that finger at yourself.
Okay.
So it's always a gut check. Find that gut check. And once you find that gut check and you're looking in the mirror and you can face everything that is there, what you got?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything is
So
about gut check time.
yeah, and it's one thing about it when you talk about the many and the petty. We your different coping skills, the things that you do to cope with or to manage, what you're going through. Because we all need that time where we can just decompress, and we all
That's
need
right.
time where we can be grounded and kind of just um process the day, process what was going on, process our feelings. So just to have that time, and like you said again, it's not, well, I don't think it's nothing wrong with men having many or petties because it's relaxing, it's soothing. And it's the same thing for women. It's very relaxing and soothing, especially once we get past the point of thinking that many and petties are maintenance. And so sometimes for some people, it's actually like a coping skill. It's something to do that's relaxing, something to make you feel better. And so I definitely understand that. Moses,
Well,
I see you off.
see, it's no great. I don't even want to come behind J Neal. I mean, real talk. And because he said what he said is so on point. What I'll add to that and then continue on is that vulnerability, truth, and trust. Vulnerability, truth, and
Mm.
trust. He's already touched on vulnerability so
Yeah, I'm
heavily.
about to slide out.
It's a huge piece. I want to just touch on it just a little on something that you just mentioned, Andrea, and that is we have to get beyond that place of where we're not allowed to be vulnerable. And as men, that has become a huge, well, it has been a huge problem. I don't want to say it has become, it has been a huge problem. And I think in our generation, we have to continue to kind of turn that wheel to
Mm-hmm.
help our kids and our kids' kids and our nephews and our, nieces and everyone to understand that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to go and
Mm.
lay on that table and get a massage. It's okay to sit there and put your feet in that warm water and let them put that scrub on there and rub it real good. It's okay to lay your head back and just be at peace and let your mind be free of all the stuff that we deal with every day. It's okay to be vulnerable. We've been told as men that you shouldn't be vulnerable. You don't need to let anyone inside. You don't need to talk about your feelings. You don't need to express that you're hurt. You know, one of my biggest challenges, and we're talking about being real here. One of my biggest challenges early on in my marriage was in my marriage. I've been married 16 years. It'll be 16 years November 5th. Let me state that. So 15 years, smacking up against 16 years, was that the role of the man versus the role of the woman.
Talk about it. Go ahead. I'm gonna
slide out. I love to cook. I love to cook. My wife felt like her responsibility was to cook. So I had to allow myself to be vulnerable enough to explain to her, express to her, baby, this is not anything against you. This is me trying to be a different kind of man than the one who only gets on the grill outside.
Yes.
I'm okay with standing in the kitchen. I'm okay with putting on an apron because it makes me feel good. I can put my chest out, you know, in the kitchen while I'm cutting squash, which I love so much, and those onions. So vulnerability is a huge piece that we have to get to. The next is trust. Until we begin to trust ourselves, we can't trust anyone else. And we as men have been told not to trust ourselves, that we need to go about doing what is the standard. And what is the standard for a man is not correct. You know, I don't need to go out and get a truck. I've had people, you know, because I'm from the country, from Mississippi too. You ain't got a truck yet? What do I need with a truck? What do I need with a pickup? It's, you know, so my truth is not going to be the same as my dad's truth. I emphasize the third because the junior I just left, and junior that I just left is dealing with grief right now. And so it's a traumatic experience for him to lose in the last 2 days on Monday, to lose his elder uncle, my great uncle, the last of a generation. And so I've seen my dad go through some things in the last 2 days, the drinking, the outlashes at his sisters and at his brothers, because he doesn't know how to express it. He doesn't know his truth. And I'm talking about my father now, the man I carry his name. And so it's real. It's not until we get to the point to where we trust, that's the third one. We trust one another that we can tell our truth and walk in our truth, which allows us to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so we have work to do. We have work to do. I'll pause there because I look like my good brothers over there want to throw some nuggets in there.
Oh, Damon, you got something you want to join in on that? Because, you know, I think that was really good. And I'm trying not to say as much. So y'all have this. Y'all go ahead. I like the piece talking about, you know, in adulthood where you have to give that space to allow the men to be vulnerable, and also hitting on those gender roles, because that was definitely something too within my marriage. So of course, you know, compared to you gentlemen, I'm a newbie on the scene of marriage, but yet we had to take away, and that's what we did. We pretty much we did away with the gender roles and the gender titles, because even in my family, it's like, oh, you ain't cooked that man nothing to eat. Well, hold whoa, hold on. You know, at that time I was in school full time, you know, grad school, no joke, working, no. And granted, my son is now 18 and he didn't come with us, but still, there's still a lot that goes on. And so just to receive those things of, am I gonna cook this man a meal? No, because this man, my husband, he understands, and he does not put that pressure on me of where my meal at when you cooking.
No. So let me jump back in there. So we're talking about gender roles, but we're also talking about, you know, the trauma that man has. And so what is the outlet? I can talk about therapy because as my wife went through postpartum depression with our kids, and for you ladies out there, if you have not had kids and you have to go through that experience, it's heavy. And so, had it not been for me going through therapy, my dad could not have handled what my wife went through, which in essence impacted me and how I needed to develop as a husband, as a caregiver, as one who is trying to manage a house that is different from my parents' home. And so, where do we go for help? I've leaned into therapy, but I also, and I want to make sure we talk about, Louisiana and Mississippi and, those areas. One of the things that has been phenomenal for me, every time I go home, I take advantage of what I know. What I know are the trees, the water, and the air of that space back home. So for me to get in a car and drive the Natchez Trace, you can't speed. Taking your time and allowing the Ross Barnett Reservoir on your right, the trees on your left, and just getting out, parking and walking and breathing the air, taking your time, not rushing through life. It does so much. When I got back here to Charlotte, I felt relieved. And those are the things that we have to seek out if we're wanting to move to a place where our minds can be free of all the clutter of manhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said, man, you said a mouthful and great insight there. And that's what it's all about, finding those stress relievers, the things that will help me to release that stress and feel at peace and create that brave and safe space for me. And like you say, it could be a number of things. You just described how you like the water, nature and everything. Somebody might like fishing. You also talked about cooking. Somebody might like going to the gym. That's my thing. That's my therapy right there. Going to the gym, and also being a minister, another hat I wear. I tell people, God gave me this word a while ago, that your ministry can become your therapy. So as you're serving others and putting out, that can be your therapy because it's more blessed to give than to receive. So as you're putting out, a lot of times you're actually receiving healing on yourself, for yourself. And the thing about life, I've learned, sometimes, people can contribute to our issues and problems that we have, especially mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But at the end of the day, I say these three things, the H3, our health, healing, and happiness are all on us. We're responsible for it. I don't care what they did in the past, how they contributed, how they neglect or abused. At the end of the day, we're left holding that bag still. And so we're going to have to find out how we're going to heal, how we're going to be happy, and how we're going to be healthy. And the thing I love about what you guys just mentioned, we have to become our own navigators of our own fate and create our own paths and find those non-conventional ways of doing things. As you guys have stated, some of our marriages and our homes are not going to resemble those of our parents and loved ones and the other generations. What does that mean? That means we're going to have to create our own blueprint. And what I love what you said, both of you guys said about that trust and being honest and then being transparent and knowing that I can't use the former ideas and the former definitions and descriptions of my relationship and my life to define me and my household. But we have to try and come up with our own blueprint and find what works for us as far as being a husband, a wife, and a parent. Because the old traditional things more than likely won't work. The conventional roles and it's a totally different society. If we keep on with that, we're gonna constantly have trouble and opposition and competition with our partner, but we want to complete each other instead of compete with each other. But
yes. I wanted to say, so how do you, because you get so much backlash from family and friends and close friends that tell you should be doing your life like this. Well, this is how you supposed to act. This is how you're supposed to walk. This is how you're supposed to parent your children. This is how you're supposed to be a husband. So how do you deal with that? Or let me change this. how do you redefine yourself and your household and create it in the manner in which you want it to be? Because that can be stressful. It's stressful and it's overwhelming.
Okay. The first key to that is getting people out your business. That's the first key to that. And
Yeah.
let's we can shut the conversation down just by that point right there. Because I don't need your opinion to tell me how I'm going to, number one, live my life. Number two,
Mhm.
how I'm going to handle what's going on in my household. Number three, how I'm going to go to my job every day and be happy and flamboyant and speak with my representatives with full confidence. And then come back to my household and have the same attitude and haven't changed a thing. So a person that has all these opinions lets me know that
Mhm.
their house is already out of order. So why should I even listen to them? That's number one. The next thing is that everybody talks about these circles. I got a circle of friends. I got a circle of buddies. Tell me where your circle ends up. It means that's a revolving door that just continues to
Mm.
open and close, open and close. What you need to do is live your life by a square. If you put somebody in each corner, you got somebody that's gonna have your back no matter what. And all I need is four, as you can see. I could put somebody over here, somebody over there, somebody over there, somebody over there. And guess what? I'm always gonna have a crust in a corner. Because if my back is against the wall, I can go to one of those four and guarantee they're gonna be able to assist me, help me in any kind of way that I need. So the conversation part where that question was asked, keep people out your business that don't have your best interest. That's where you
Mhm.
start with that conversation, because I can guarantee you what's going on in their house is not in order, and they sitting up here telling you about things because they're potentially miserable about their own lives. And guess what? Misery loves company. We know that that is a spoken slogan on many levels. But I can guarantee you that person is probably looking at you and probably saying this behind closed doors. Man, they got something I wish I had. Da 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 da. So
Mhm.
you have to be very careful and very selective on who you allow in your life, because everybody is not for you. That's why
Mhm.
it is very important to keep details, certain details that you want strapped to the vest. Keep them to yourself. Live your life privately. You don't have to tell everybody or your friend girls about this, that, and the other, because you don't know who's saying anything behind your back and basically telling you that, hey, this is this, this is that, this is how things should be. Mm-mm. If you got that
Mhm.
much of opinion, that already tells me what counseling degree did you get? Do you have your
Yes.
own show? You on Oprah? Wait a minute, is this Ricky Lake? Which if you want to go back there,
Ooh, not
which
Ricky.
one
You
is
need to
it?
bring up Ricky.
What's
Is this
that?
Jenny? Is this Jenny Jones? I'm going all the way back. So you gotta,
Around.
yeah, you gotta tell me what you know. That means you've been watching too many of them shows,
Mhm.
getting your little advice. Probably watching a Yanla fix my life. You've
Lord,
been
come
watching
on.
that. You've been watching that, trying to get your advice, and then you want to go and speak the gospel to somebody about what's going on in their
Mm.
lives. Who are you? Who are you? What have
Mm.
you done? What makes you so relative to these points?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Make me understand.
So in that, yeah,
Go ahead.
in, in,
What he said.
it's a scale. It's a scale. J. Neal, you hit it, brother. You hit it.
Yeah.
It's a scale. Life is a scale,
Yes.
Mhm.
and so we have to make sure that, and I think this comes with maturity,
Mhm.
Yeah.
mental security. I mean, mental maturity,
Stability.
maturity in your faith,
Mm.
maturity in your actions, maturity in your trust of yourself, your
Mm.
growth. But when you get to you have to get to a point, not when, but you have to get to a point, specifically as a man. I'm not going to speak from another perspective right now, but as a man, where you know that you go to certain people to ask certain questions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If I don't ask you for your advice, don't give it to me.
Yeah.
Don't give it to me, because it's not of value to what I need. And it's my job to understand when I need help. So I have to know that, if I have a friend who he backslides, I know he backslides. That doesn't make him any less of a friend. He has a challenge. So if there's some things that I need to know about that, I'm going to go to him and ask him because he's going to give me the truth about his actions. If I need to go and speak with someone who, you know, regardless of what the issue is, I'm going to use the church. If I need to go and speak with a minister, I'm not going to any minister. I'm going to go to one that I know is going to be honest with me, who's going to be upfront with me, who's not going to be judgmental, who's going to give me the truth the way I ask it. What we do too often, and I know that it's a part of that maturity chain, is that we go and ask the wrong folk. Going back to J. Neal. When we don't, we only let them in. We need to shut them out. You got to ask the right people. And if that right people is 4 people that you have within your square, then keep it there. But understand that you might have to change somebody out.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
But that it's so important.
Yeah. And I was about to say, just really quickly touching on what Moses just said and just combining what Moses and J. Neal, the circle, the square, all of these geometrical figures. Well, throughout my life, man, especially the last, I would say 10 or 15 years, the circle and the square has changed. The parties have changed. You know, it was I could literally go back to a CD I did and I look at all the people I listed and hardly any of those people in my life right now. And so the thing is, I always say, don't get stuck on just who, but just get stuck on what you need. Always be highly selective of who you bring into your circle. But in different seasons, God will give you a whole new group of people. And you have to be sensitive enough and discern that, okay, there's a shift taking place. And some of the people who were there previously, they don't fit in this season. And not that you're discarding them and throwing them away, but for what I'm doing and where I am, and like you said, Moses, the maturity level that I am and what I'm doing now, they can't really be here this close yet or right now. And what happens, like I said, your circle and that square will change sometimes. So be flexible enough to realize that and to make the necessary adjustments. Because sometimes if you bring somebody out of a certain place or into a season that they're not supposed to be in, it can be detrimental to you.
And that's true. And you're absolutely right. Because, you know, when I think back on the book, T.D. Jakes, his book called The Instinct, and he talks about the giraffe perspective and the turtle's perspective. And, you know, we always trying to get everybody's opinion or everybody's perspective. But then sometimes you have to realize that you on one level or you seeing one way and they're seeing a totally different way. So when you start getting everyone's thoughts and opinions, then you find yourself being fearful and not even stepping outside of your comfort zone, you know, stepping into that place of being uncomfortable to even accomplish the goals and the dreams and the aspirations that you have. And then also setting out to do the purpose that God has for you. You know, hold on, let me bring myself back in. I'm good.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You getting all stirred up.
Don't stir me up.
Step into the pulpit.
Don't be pulling us out there in that water you ain't willing to come to. Don't pull us out there and you ain't willing to come. Come on.
I'm gonna come. But I want y'all to definitely go. I want y'all to go. But so we have someone that asks not necessarily a question, but more so of a statement. But I want to put it into a question form. As a young person, so you know, you guys, when y'all were young, were you ever afraid to stand on your own? And then also, let's take it back to recreating or creating who you are, because then you realize that, hey, what everyone else wanted me to do, the person who they wanted me to be, I don't like that idea. I want to stand into my own, I want to gain my own identity. I want to stand into my own true self. So how do you as men, and that's what I want to know, how do you as men step into your true self, be authentic with who you are? And when did you realize that you was stepping into your true self and being authentic? I know those are a lot of questions.
Ooh, I was I'm gonna be honest, it just happened 2 years ago. And when I really started to step into myself and start to realize who I was. I feel that there's no right or wrong answer, because sometimes you really just need to find out exactly who you are as an individual. Um, I have to thank the strong black woman that sat across from me, that allowed me to have 1 year to have her ear, and
Mm.
to allow me to take as much time as I needed to get everything out. There were details that I had bottled up, that I hadn't released, from the time that I was 5 years old, when I found my great grandmother sloped on the side of the bed. From the time that I was older, in which my dad had basically stated that I wasn't his child, and I had to go get a blood test. Those things affected me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was never able to get them out, because you're looking at your parents, or you're looking at an adult, and all you hear is this: you have to be respectful. Okay, so how do I get what I really want to say out to them? Because right now I'm crying out for help, and I'm crying out to state my opinion on how I feel, but you want to reprimand me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not old enough to tell you exactly how I feel. That stays with you for so
Mm-hmm.
long, and you allow things to just go by. You have your Christmases and your Thanksgivings, and you just live all of that. You're still not, it's almost like grieving. You have
Mm-hmm.
not grieved all of that time. I got a chance to grieve 35 years of my life, and my last two have been so much cleaner, because I was
Mm-hmm.
able to get all of that out of me. And and I will say this: you're going to lose friends, you're
Yes.
going to lose family, you're going to have people that think you off on the deep end, you done lost your mind. All of that is going to happen. But guess what? That's one less problem that you got. That it cleans up life for you to where it is so easy. It's like a direct path. It's
Mm-hmm.
like everything, every burden is off your shoulders. You can then look at it like, okay, I'm good now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can really do the things that I want to do. And then you start to see things happen in your life that you like, wow, all this is just it happening at once. And you're like, where did all this come from? Because you were able to release yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to get all of that off of you. And again, you're gonna have people that are gonna still come try to come back into your life. Don't let them back in.
Mhm.
Once they have basically shunned you out and shut you out and basically said, hey, this ain't what it's gonna be. Oh, okay, bye. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I'm comfortable with myself. I'm comfortable with just having my wife and my future baby here. That's good enough for me. What else do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. So that's how I would respond to that in that situation, because there again, there's no right or wrong answer to it. Just understand that you will know when that turning point is for you in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Moses, was you about to say something? I saw you coming.
Leaning in. You saw me
Yeah,
leaning in.
yeah. You gave me that signal.
It's well, it's not an easy question to answer. Questions, plural, questions to answer. I'm going to go back to the 18, 19, 20-year-old me.
Mm,
And so I'm going to call out a different name. Trey. Trey. I'm the third. So if you from Mississippi and you say Moses Fox, they're going to say, who, Trey? So
mm-hmm.
that person. I'm going to go and do something that we said we wouldn't do off the top. And I'm going to say that I know that there were some folk praying for me. There were some folk praying for me to get what I needed,
Mm-hmm.
because I think at some point in my teenage years, I adopted this ability to innately understand what was going wrong around me. And I
Mm,
made the determination that I have to get out of it. So I joke sometime when I have spoken to students that I ran. I ran from the challenges of my hometown of my home state. And so the 19-year-old me, saw alcoholism. And if I stayed in Yazoo City, then I would have ended up in a situation where I didn't have an out. So for me, the best thing was to go and get an education, not even think twice about it. My dad had already told me, you turn 19, you can't live here because there'd be too many adult males in my house. So trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had already told me, if you get a child, you coming to work with me. I'm gonna get you a job. You coming to work with me. I didn't know I didn't want to work in a lab. No. So trauma. So I innately took everything around me, what my cousins were doing, whether it be selling drugs, whether it be this, whether it be that, making babies, because I was the last one to have kids after I got married. I understood that I didn't want those things for myself. And I compartmentalized everything and focused on my way out. I wasn't a great student. I've shown students my high school and middle school grades, and they're like, how did you go to college? By the grace of somebody, I went to college and I never stopped. I learned how to be a good college student, and it was based in the things that I was innately able to understand were not going right. And I'm speaking of that 18, 19, 20-year-old me. And so I think we have to be unafraid to trust something different when we're young, when we don't know better. As I matriculated beyond 20 into 22, 24, 26, 30s, I learned to develop and get help. So I saw my first therapist at 23 years old. So I was fortunate in that sense. What was I ever told about therapy? Crazy people go to therapy.
Yeah, I was just about to go there.
Crazy people go to therapy. But I knew that I had some things that were compounding and that were beginning to get out of whack. And I was doing things that I wasn't comfortable with. So I had to do something different. Like I said, there was an innateness in me that I think came from a higher power that allowed me to step into an area that I didn't know. I had no knowledge and understanding about. And I'm speaking from the I because I think it's important here that the person asked about young person. And I'm trying to speak from that young perspective, not the 44-year-old man that I am today, but the young person that I was back then. And so I think that is the biggest piece, is blocking out everything else and seeing what's going on. Where my parents made phenomenal decisions. They have 4 kids that all have college degrees, all have gone on to do phenomenal things. But were we perfect? Heck no. By no means. By no means. For some reason, I was able to connect with the wrong that was going on. I don't drink beer today. Can't stand the smell of it. And I know that is me compartmentalizing the fact that I sat in the truck with my dad too many evenings while he went in to drink. Compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
But I was also, at 23 years old, able to sit down and talk to a therapist about that.
Yeah.
So I know I feel like I'm rambling right now, but
You good?
that was the Trey. And so, Trey became Moses, who became Dr. Foxx, and you grow. You grow. You have to allow yourself to grow. So we're not going to get it all right. Am I 100% on point with everything? My wife will let you know very quickly. No. No. She reminds me. Yeah, you think you're doing well, but you're not. And I appreciate it. So
it keeps you grounded.
I agree with that, because I think it is okay for you to admit that you're wrong in some instances. That's a part of vulnerability. You have to say to yourself, man, I was wrong for that. Admit it. But when you're an adolescent, you're gonna have those strong-willed ones that are gonna tell you, man, you a punk for saying that you was wrong. Why did you say that? You out there
Yeah.
on the playground with your friends, and they just talking about you. You're taking in all of that, and some of that bullying. We talk about cyberbullying right now. We dealt with bullying face to face. There
Yes.
was no Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, none of that was here. We dealt with it one on one, and you'll be surprised down at. I always say, I'm glad I was raised in the time that I was raised. I'm glad that there was switches on trees. I'm glad that there were paddles in schools in which, yes, 37 years old, I dealt with those things. But you have to go back and say to yourself, man, I sure was wrong. I wish I could take some of this back. You can have those subtle regrets, but don't go back and harp on them to the point where it gets you to a depression point. You're just depressed about things that you did in your past. Once you have settled it, prayed on it, move on from it. Move forward. There's plenty of life to live. You can always balance things out.
And
And
that's
be
true.
okay with being different.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be okay
Yes.
with being
Being
different.
Yes.
I was going to ask that question. I was
Yes.
definitely going to ask that about being different, especially with males, the challenges that you guys have with being different, because everybody else in the family is, they doing the same old thing. They got the same routine. And then you look at them and you're like, well, you know what? I don't want to do this. I'm going to leave. But then you have those people that still in your hometown, like, oh, you think you better than us? Oh, you think you this, or you think you that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those type of situations? And I know all of you guys have been, moved from your hometown. So, Damon, how did you deal with that? Because you left.
Child, I'm still dealing with that to this day. 28 years later, I go home and people still tripping. And I never forget when I first came up, and I was gone for a little bit. Of course, you go back home to New Orleans. Oh, your accent changed. You're different now. You talking like you white and all this kind of stuff.
Mississippi no more.
Yeah. And so that, just know, first of all, that comes with the territory. Be ready to embrace it. Just prepare your heart for it. Kind of numb yourself, I always say. But you just have to know that the move you made, the decision you made to leave, was important for you. And when I look at my life, had I not moved, had God not directed my path to come here, then everything that accompanied that decision wouldn't have happened. And it was here, of course, for me that I found God. God found me, and that made the difference. That changed my life and just took it to a whole nother direction. So if you take that decision of me leaving New Orleans to come here, then it's a great chance that I may have missed God. It's not that he couldn't save me there, but for me, he had to get me from that environment that I was in. He had to get me from the people who I was around, because none of them were going in that direction. And I just have to be honest. And so once he extracted me from there and put me here, and then put me in a circle where people were trying to live right, get their lives together, then it motivated me, helped me, and inspired me to do better. But I think that's the key, just knowing that, okay, deep down, trust your gut, trust your instinct and intuition. Know that the decision you make, of course, is not going to be perfect. You're going to have trials and challenges and opposition, even with the correct decision. So understand that part as well. But just know, just settle it in your spirit and in your heart that I made the right decision and I'm going to live with it. And know that, like I said, they're going to hate you. They're going to oppose you. Years later, they're going to still talk about, dog, you still ain't moved back home. No, I'm not coming back home. That was never an option. That was never part of the plan. I'm going to come visit. I'm coming visit. I'm kicking with you. We're going to hang out. But I'm not coming back.
You got 48 hours.
Purpose.
Exactly.
I love it.
You got me for 48 hours.
Yeah, that's it. So whoever I can see when I'm here, get me, because after I'm gone, it's gonna be a minute.
Yeah. And I like is that every one of you highlighted on something different, but it all went back to the same thing, which is it's important to know who you are, but also it's important for you to be you. And it's okay to not be what everyone else define or everyone wants you to be. And that's something that I definitely want to stress to the TC community is that it's okay not to be the football player that mama or daddy wanted you to be. It's okay that you're not the basketball player. Because guess what? Everybody's not meant to be the professional basketball player. Everybody is not meant to be a Russell Wilson. Everybody's not meant to be a Justin Fields. Everybody's not meant to be, these people. But you have your own certain path that you have to take that's right just for you. You can't be like everybody else, but you can be the best person that you are. So we want to see who you are. We want to see what's the best version or the best versions of you. And you don't have to be one version. You can be multiple people like me. Today I got her. Tomorrow it might be somebody else.
Well,
So
your point is poignant.
Yeah.
We all have to realize that who you are today is not who you're going to be in 5 years.
Yes.
If you're the same person 5 years from today, then you got to get help.
We got problems.
You got some serious problems.
Yeah.
Some serious problems. And I think that's what we get stuck in. When I think about my hometown, we're talking about our hometowns. I think there are a lot of people there with phenomenal potential, but they're so fearful of who they might become that they become comfortable with who they are in the present. And that's a problem. I think the timing of tonight was excellent. And you talked to me while I was at home in Mississippi. I had a favorite cousin growing up, Lil Howard. That's my favorite cousin. He's Howard Foxx Jr. and Moses Foxx III. Our dads are brothers. But he lost his mom during COVID. And I went out to the grave with him to visit his mom's site. And he said something to me. We were talking about my nephew, who he's gonna get. I'm always keeping an eye on Lonnie for you. He has some tendencies. He said that. And I was like, what do you mean, Howard? He has some tendencies. He said, well, his mama not making him get outside and be a boy. I said, remember, I didn't get outside to be a boy the way y'all wanted me to be a boy. I didn't want to get grease under my nails. So I always felt like y'all thought I was queer. And I said that. And he was like, no, you were just different. And I said, what does that mean? He was like, I knew you weren't gay, but you just different. You just saw things differently. I was like, Howard, what do you mean? He said, I always knew you were leaving us. And I'm thinking to myself, he's much more talented, way smarter than I am. And instead of him thinking about the things that he can do to develop and grow, because I see him growing now that he's lost his mom. He's a totally different person. Seeing him standing there, grown man, breaking down, crying, standing over his mother's grave, and he's now beginning to develop mentally. We have to make sure that we're identifying with who we are instead of worrying about what the next man is. And that was my message to him. Howard, you spent too much time thinking about what I was doing. I knew that I had to find my way. Now it's time for you to find yours. So,
yeah,
I agree. I'm gonna say this. Number one, for the ones that are listening and you have adolescents, the first thing that you may need to teach the adolescents is that it's okay not to be a part of the cool clique, because they are going to try to fit in, do the things that they're doing over here. I have to say that I was different. I never wanted to just fit in with some of my peers that I went through middle school or high school, and even through my first stint of college. I didn't want to be like them. I kind of saw what they were doing, but I always had my own mindset. So teach your kids to have their own mindset to where they're not becoming followers. They're already their own leader to start off. That's one.
yeah.
Two, the next thing is Don't hold your child back. And I think Moses was hitting on this point a little bit. And what I mean by that is that the child has immense potential. They're wanting to do things. You can see that they have the ideas, da 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 da. But then here you come as the parent, and this child is fully grown now, saying, "I need this, I need that, need to do this for me. I took care of you, so you need to take care of me. Hello,
Mhm.
I need you to chill out with that, please." Understand that they have their own lives to live. You had your own life to live too. You could have bettered your life while they were at adolescent, but guess what? You chose not to. So do not hold that child back because you're wanting to, as I stated at the beginning, live your dream through them. Mm-mm. That's a no-no for me. That doesn't work for me. Um, it, it it literally just goes back to that same point of you don't understand the effects until this child is going to end up just exploding, and you're going to wonder why are they just being the way that they are, because you didn't allow them to be themselves. That's the key. Allow them to be who they are, whatever that is. But when
Mhm.
you continue to say the word no, the 14th and 15th letters back to back, that's where the problem is.
Mhm. Mhm. So we have a statement, and it says that, and this is someone tuning in from on YouTube, and they say they have a depressed friend, but she says she doesn't want to talk, and that she doesn't talk to anyone, but they want to know because their friend is on social media a lot, is she lying? And so I'm gonna say this. No, she's not lying that she doesn't want to talk to no one. It could be very well that she doesn't want to talk to anyone because she doesn't feel like anyone in her social environment is going to support her. Because, like we said earlier in the show, so we're circling back around, that there may not be or have a non judgmental space where you have to take your biases off the table, and it's very tricky. I mean, we know as clinicians that family members or the person whomever we're talking to or we're working with, they have to have a support system. You have to have support outside of therapy.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when you're having that support, you want it to be someone that you can talk to, that you feel like they're not going to push their thoughts on you, their opinions on you, and that it's also, again, a non-judgmental space, because sometimes you have to allow a person to just talk and
Yeah.
to just get out what they're feeling and not have anything else to say. I think that's what's a lot of us find very difficult, is no rebuttal. Don't give a rebuttal. Just sit there and go, yeah. Okay. That's how you feel. Well, tell me more about that. Well, oh, okay. Yeah. Mm. They said, oh, really? Can you see? This is called reflective listening. You're tuning in, you're paying attention to what they're saying, but you're not giving your thought, your opinion, and you're not swaying the conversation one way or the other. So, if you want my advice, I would say just continue to show that support. And when she sees that you've established that trusting support, I say again, trusting support, because support can look different. When you have established that trusting support, then they will verbalize more, or they would express their emotions more. But gentlemen, how do you feel about that, with the friend who is depressed but she doesn't want to talk? And I pretty much, the way the question looks is she just doesn't want to talk to this person, but they keep
Yeah.
stressing this person to talk to them.
Yeah. Well, the person, they may not feel comfortable. They might not feel like, they may feel that the person's not qualified, number one, or the person, like you said, is not going to listen without judgment. And then just being able to kind of connect and relate, because sometimes when you're going through something, you feel as though nobody understands, and they might feel as though, especially this person, girl, you're not going to even understand what I'm going through, so why would I even tell you? Of course, she's on social media. The information she's putting out there is basically socializing, just general. but those secrets and those deep things, of course, she doesn't want to share, and obviously not just with anybody. And so, like you say, she should just encourage her to find somebody, who she feels safe with, who's going to be a good listener. And always, we use the 3 A's: accept, allow, and appreciate her. And like you said, not just come with a rebuttal, not give advice, but just listen. Just listen.
Yes, definitely. Moses, I saw you leaning in.
Leaning in, but he ready. Go get him, Moses.
He said, "Go get him, Moses."
I was going to ask you to read the question or statement again.
So the statement says, depressed friend says she doesn't want to talk and that she doesn't talk to anyone.
Give me the
But
last one.
She's online. Is she lying?
So go to the end.
Is she lying?
Say it again.
Is she lying?
I ask you to repeat that because one thing, she indicated her as a friend. And if she's truly a friend and she's not trusting her friend from the beginning, that's reciprocated. A lack of trust is felt. And so if she's not feeling as though I can trust you with the innermost things that are going on with me, and you're expressing it outwardly, that you feel like she's lying, instead of affirming her in that space and reassuring her that you have her back, then you're not going to gain her trust. You're not going to get her to a place where she feels comfortable in sharing those things. I'm no therapist, but I believe in them. And one of the things that I believe is that even in friendships, we provide, and I'm speaking of true friendship. I'm not just talking about somebody who you call your friend. I'm talking about someone who understands you. You don't have to say anything, but they feel your pain. And if this is truly her friend, then it is a matter of doing what each of you already said, and that is allowing her to know that she can trust you, so that she will bring those things, and she'll know that you're going to listen and affirm. Listen and affirm.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm going to add, and I'm going to be very brief. What I see with this reminds me of a song from 1992 or 93 by Glenn Jones. I've been searching. That's what this person is doing. They're searching for a friend. And they don't feel that they have someone that is a friend that is going to have their back fully right now. And when they're searching, that's when you need to worry the most. Because if they're on social media saying anything about what's going on with their life, I can guarantee you they're looking for somebody on social media right now that they can reel in and actually talk about their situation too.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they're doing that right now. And they're not coming to you directly. There has to be some type of friction or something that happened in the background or something that you did in the past that has this friend feeling like, nah, I ain't going to her for anything. I'm not going to him for anything, because you might have leaked something that they didn't want leaked. You might have said something that just didn't sit right with them. You will always know a true friend. A true friend will be completely transparent with you with everything that they have. But they know this. It's just like signing a non-disclosure agreement. It will never be repeated about what's going on with them. That's what true friendship is about. When you say this is between us, it needs to stay there. But sometimes you shouldn't even have to say that, because at that point, if y'all are friends, you know the code not to speak on that. So I'm going to say this person is searching. They are. I know it's funny how I brought up the song, but I'm being honest and being very clear that this person is searching for a friend. And I would say this person needs to be checked on if they're especially on social media speaking about things openly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true, and I definitely agree with that. But I do want to highlight on this, and for you gentlemen, and I can't remember if I said it in the beginning though, but why is it such a stigma in the Black community about therapy? Why do we feel like it's such a almost like a negative thing to say of, hey, I'm going to therapy, or hey, I've been to therapy, without everyone calling us, and I believe you said it earlier, Moses, crazy. Oh, you crazy. Something must be wrong with you. You got
That
suicidal
becomes,
thoughts?
and you know where that comes from? Watching too much TV. You watching too much of what's going on the TV screen, or what you done heard from someone, instead of actually finding out factually for yourself what it is about.
What therapy is about.
That's what the key is.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you have that opinion about what somebody over here to the left or right said about it, and you haven't formulated your own, then you, sir or ma'am, are not living your truth at all.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being authentic in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'll just say it. I don't have this mindset to where I'm just going to listen to everything that someone has to say. I'm going to go and actually go and research it for myself and find out. That's what you must do when you're becoming lazy and you want to ask every Tom, Dick, Harry, or every brother man about what this situation is. Then what you're going to get, you're getting all of their answers. But what are
Mm-hmm.
you thinking about it? Where's your thought process in it? And don't say that you're not educated enough to go and read up on something or go Google something, because we're not in that age anymore. We have to
Yeah.
grow up from that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So go find out for yourself would be my answer.
Mm-hmm. And that's definitely true. I would agree with that. Damon, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, what happens, especially males, it kind of makes them feel like they're weak. And, okay, I got it. This is, in other words, like you're saying, you have a weak mind, and I can't get my mind together. Now, of course, if we're hurting physically, we'll go take care of that. I know to go to the emergency room if I cut my arm or I'm hurting physically. But when it comes to the mental aspect, it's just hard sometimes for people to grasp our culture, sometimes to grasp that that's just as important as your body. Your mind is just as important. And when you're getting help, it does not mean that you're weak. It does not mean that you're crazy. It just means that you're struggling in some area. Just like if you sprain your wrist or you sprain your ankle, that's just an area that's hurting and it needs some attention. It's the same thing with the mind. Sometimes we have different things. It could be a chemical imbalance. It could be trauma, all kinds of different sources of why we're having mental issues. But we need to, it needs to become a priority too. Like I said, sometimes people over rely on fate and just say, well, God don't work it out and you don't need to go see a therapist. But in some cases, you really do. You really do need that help. And you can't be concerned about what people are going to think, because they might say stuff, but just know that you're working on your health and you're trying to help yourself out at the end of the day. So at times we have to be selfish, bottom line.
I believe you can pray and still have a therapist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Exactly. I'd be a bonus pastor. Be a bonus pastor.
I definitely believe, you can pray and you can still have a therapist. And you can pray to God, send you a good therapist, one that you can relate to, somebody you can vibe with, somebody has a good energy, because there are some, and I'm not going to make it sound like, you got to find the right therapist for you. That's the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and every therapist is not going to be a right fit. Some of them, you got to throw them away. We're like, a little shaky, but definitely you have to go out and find you a right fit therapist. And then there are also therapists that specialize in certain things. And so you just have to know, like I said, again, just finding the right fit for the person for you. Moses, you leaning in on me.
I'm leaning in. I'm leaning in because it's a really difficult question to answer because I want to lean towards trying to provide a response from a historical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lean into history, then you got to lean into psychology. And I'm thinking about, W.B. Du Bois and the triple quadrant. And, I don't want to go academic, but at the same time, when we talk about how faith was developed, the church, the home, our community, the community that we live in, and I'm speaking of Black men, we come from communities where in church and in our community itself, we were told that you don't need therapy, pray about it. Mm-hmm. And so how far back do we reach to feel the impact going forward? That's still embedded in our souls today. And so it's hard for me to provide a true response to that question, because it's a serious question that we've got to get to a point to where we're willing, ready to be vulnerable, to trust one another enough to say, you know what, my daddy, my granddaddy, my great granddaddy were wrong. They were wrong. And that this is okay. I can have my faith and have my therapist. I can have my religious belief and have someone to redirect what's going on in here. Because it's not, I think, I'm not going to say that. If we're not getting it, I think that's where it's frightening. I don't want to say that's where you're crazy, but if you're not getting it, that help, and regardless of what that help is, it may not be you sitting down with someone. It may be one of the many other things that has been mentioned here this evening. But you've got to find that place to where solace is there. So I know I probably said a whole lot to say nothing, but in the end, I think there's a long-term impact that we're still, as Black men, trying to recover from, and we're not there yet.
I believe that, and this is something I want to touch on definitely before we even wrap up, is the different things that are going on in society that Black men are dealing with. Because we're talking about mental health, and we're talking about the different stresses. And so far tonight, we've been talking about the micro. We've been talking about, the immediate family in the house. But then let's talk about the macro. Let's talk about the things that's going on in society that affects the Black man and their mental health. When we start looking at racial injustice that's going on within the world, because as Black men, you're still dealing with that also. So not only are you dealing with your family's challenges, you're still dealing with the challenges and the struggles that when you go outside your home, not even knowing if you're going to come back when you get pulled over by the police officer, or if something goes on at work. So how do you as Black men deal with those challenges also?
So let me quickly finish up Moses' point. And Moses, I know you know the poem If. So there's a point where it states, if you can trust yourself, but make allowance for their doubting too. Key words there. If you can trust yourself. That's all I'm going to say to that. So, of course, as Andrea, I have a podcast, the Untapped Podcast, where we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we talk about injustices, we're not speaking on just what we're dealing with just here in society. We're dealing with it in our jobs as well. So how I deal with the situation is actually talking about it open and freely, getting information out there to where people understand that there are resources out there, understand that there are people out there that want to talk about the many topics when it talks about racial injustice, when it talks about what happens over here at your job, what talks about what potentially could be happening even in your own home. You have to be able to speak. It goes back to the point that we were making earlier. When you bottle things up, you only create more problems for yourself. And the more problems that you create for yourself, long run, you're going to continue to have those stack of problems are going to still be there. and you're gonna be running from them. But guess what? They right here on your backside, following you. So how I deal with the situation, especially when it comes to racial injustices, I am proud to walk out and be free about myself. But I also know here in the state of Texas, that ain't something that a lot of people like. They don't like to see that type of confidence. So the question would be, how do I get around it? Oh, it's easy. Be me. There's no change because I'm comfortable in who I am. So if I'm not comfortable stepping outside just to go and get a $2.99 pint of ice cream, then something wrong here and something definitely wrong here because I don't know me. And that goes back to the conversation centered around faith. This is a time in which you have to be very strong in your faith because if you are not, Lord help you. Seriously. And that really is where this starts and ends.
Yes.
Your faith is the key. And if you're worried about a gentleman walking up to you being disrespectful, saying this, that, and the other, okay, it potentially could happen. But what are also the chances of it not happening? What are also the chances of, let's say, just a situation that happened with me last year? I'm riding down I-35, minding my business, wasn't speeding, got pulled over. The cop asked me, "Hey, what is this on the back of your license plate?" Okay, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So you knew what the fraternity was. You knew that it was an African American, mostly jointed fraternity, but you wanted to still ask me about it, and that was the reason why you pulled me over because it was suspicious. How is that suspicious? What suspicion are you getting from it? And my wife wasn't here with me. Luckily, I was actually heading because I used to travel back and forth to Austin to go to work, but to be pulled over just short of San Marcos so that someone could just ask me about this and how it was suspicious because I'm driving a Lexus. That was the real reason why you pulled me over. That was the problem. Black man driving a Lexus need to run his plates. Let me make sure he good. What's this on the back of your license plates? Then you gave me my license and told me I could drive off. That is the type of injustices that we deal with. And you have to be able to learn how to handle those situations. We're so quick to want to go and say, okay, well, I'm going to be like this when I deal with the cops until you get in that situation. Until you get into that situation. Don't say because what you saw on the news or this, that, and the other. When you get in the situation, when you're in the hot seat, what are you going to do? How are you going to react? Be professional. Be who you are. Don't change who you are. You know the laws. You know the rules. But also, you better have a phone right there next to you recording everything that's going on because that's exactly what I did. And that's how I reported the officer.
Amazing. Damon, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, I would just say, personally, I just try to, be hopeful, be optimistic, and try to navigate accordingly. And like Neal was saying, I know I've been pulled over several times, and more than likely it was racial profiling, but it's kind of hard for you to prove that in certain instances. Because as he stated, they'll find something to say, well, no, this is why I was putting you over. And it's so minute. I never forget on the back of my van, the little light bulb for the license plate, just one of them on one side was kind of out. And to show you how I was alive, what happened, I saw them sitting, the sheriff, they were sitting on the side, they were facing me. So as I passed them, they couldn't even see that initially. And as soon as I passed, they got behind me. And when I say they followed me, because what happened, another car got like directly behind me. So it was a car, then them. They followed me, it had to be several miles. Then once I took the left, the car that was behind me kept straight. Then they turned and came behind me. And about a half a mile, they hit the lights. I'm like, oh, crap. So I pull over, and that's when he comes and gives the spiel, talking about, look like you were swerving. No, I wasn't swerving. What else you got? Oh, well, actually, I can give you a ticket because you let a light out in the back. okay, I get it fixed, you know. But the key, like Neal was saying, you got to be professional and you got to keep it cool. Because if you blow up and you get in your emotions, it's hard to use your logic and emotion at the same time.
It is.
But if you're able to, even that is racial profiling. You know what's up. So prepare yourself, know what's going on, but handle yourself accordingly. Navigate through that situation where I get home safely tonight to my family, to my wife, to my kids, and I get to live to see another day. And that's the best you can do. And even sometimes in those cases, things go awry. But that's the only thing you can do is try to prepare yourself as best as you can. Be cognizant of it. Even if you know what's going on, just play the game. I always say, just play the game and get out of there alive. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Moses, did you want to kind of close us out a little bit? I saw you leaning in.
Did you? Look, these brothers have hit it. These brothers have hit it on the head. My perspective, and so as a father, my perspective is different now than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and so on and so forth. I can tell you that I had an incident that took place 5 years ago. Yeah, Moses turning 11. He was 5, getting ready to turn 6, or pretty close to turning 6. And kids at 5 and 6, they live in a space that we think is much different than we are. And so son is on the back seat, just he and I in the car, and I get pulled over for making an illegal move around. So lane exchange. It was an illegal lane exchange. So did everything I'm supposed to. I have my information above my visor. So I'll go ahead and pull it down, have it in hand, ready for the cop to come about. Went through the motions procedurally, stayed calm, having my son in the back seat. It wasn't even the cop that hit me because I went through, I knew what to do because you programmed yourself. I work in a professional environment where I can't do anything wrong. All eyes are always on me. When the cop proceeds to leave the car, my son says, "Daddy, is that a good cop or a bad cop?" And so, perspective.
Wow.
Not only was he watching my actions, but he was watching the actions of the cop. Now, why a 5-year-old is asking whether or not it's a good cop or bad cop, we never had a conversation about, what a cop is. But for him to innately, or wherever it came from, ask that question, it tells me that there's something that is even in our children.
Yes.
That is being brought forth. So, like I said, my posture is different now than it was in each, of the time periods that I've had to go through. But we live cautiously.
Yes.
We live cautiously. And I think this is another subject that we can bring up because there's some things that go on. We talk about the work environment, how we handle that. It's been touched on, but it's a situation now where in my last role, my voice had to be different than my voice is now. I'm an executive with the college. Therefore, I can't afford to be quiet. I sit on the EDIC. I sit on the college leadership team. So if I am quiet, that not only impacts me, but the other 101 Black males that work for the college. The 102 of us. So it changes. Yeah. So I think this is definitely another conversation that we can have. I don't know how much time you have. And the brothers here are looking like, it's definitely something that we need to have more conversation about.
Yes.
Definitely.
I'm open for that one.
Yes.
So
I'm open for that one.
Awesome. Well, definitely, we definitely want to get you guys back. I just want to say thank y'all so much for coming on the conversation. It has been so awesome and amazing just to have you guys. And again, even in the way that we all met, I truly believe that something is going on. That's all I can say. I know definitely something is going on, because I know this is not the last time that I will see you gentlemen. But I'm just, I'm gonna do that to myself. But I'm my heart is full. My heart is definitely full. I'm grateful. I'm thankful that the Lord, like I say, brought this connection. And I know couldn't nobody have done this but him, especially in the way of how we did connect. I know it was divinely orchestrated, but I thank him for everything that he's doing. Again, I thank y'all for just being on the conversation, talking about this subject. Again, because I know it is definitely something that it's not something we shout to the rooftop, but it is definitely something that needs to be addressed, something that we need to have more conversations about. And it is definitely dealing with the mental health that is within the male community. We talk a lot about it, within the women a little bit more than we do for our males. But at the same time, I still want to give that highlight to our men, because at the same time, our men, just as well as the women are the backbone, our men are too, and so we need our men to stand strong. We need our men to be the women that we are. Just plain and simple. We need our men. So we need to make sure that y'all are good so that we can be good.
And that's vice
Because it
versa.
starts
Thank
with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It starts with you. And so you have to be good so we can be good. And so that's just as much as I'm going to say. I do want to wrap up tonight by saying, that it is definitely, and what you've heard tonight, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to express your feelings. Don't think that it's something wrong with expressing your feelings. Find that space that you need. Take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. And don't let the thoughts and the opinions of others dictate how you're going to live your life. You have the choice to create the path. You have the choice. And I stress choice, because that's exactly what it is. A lot of us, we don't want to talk about it being a choice, but guess what? You have a choice. The same way the good Lord gave you free will, you have a choice. So it's up to you to decide what choice that you're going to make. Do you want to make yourself a priority, or are you still going to continue to be a person or a people's pleaser? Because I can tell you this, it's stressful being a people's pleaser. It's less stressful, and you receive more peace and healing when you only make yourself a priority. I just want to talk about your cup. Hey, don't feed anyone from your cup. You feed them from your saucer. You fill your cup up, and from the overflow, that's where you feed them from. Because what that does is it gives you a sense of peace. And if you don't have it to give, two-letter word, no. You have boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries. Don't let no one tell you that you cannot have boundaries. Why? Because again, you are creating the life and the person that you want to be, because you're standing in your truth, and this is who you are. Be unapologetic of who you are. Hey, I ain't gonna go there with y'all tonight. I'm gonna let y'all go to bed in peace. I'm gonna let y'all process this and come back and eat off this good food again, because these gentlemen, they served y'all up some things tonight, and a lot of different topics, a lot of different areas that they touch. And I know they want to go in on some more, but we just didn't have the time this time around. But trust me when I tell you, they would definitely be back. So again, TC community, I want to see y'all here again next Wednesday. We're going to, keep it going for the month of September. We have different guests talking about mental health with men. And as you notice, it is definitely changing every time we talk. But again, it is a conversation that needs to be had. So as always, remember to show the world who you are, and don't allow the world to tell you who you are. I am signing off here. I'll see y'all next Wednesday. Peace.